Hi everyone, if you like what I do, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and consider checking out my Patreon. Enjoy the video. In all of their exploits, the race of Dryads have only ever tried to maintain purity and balance in all things. Even when the great scourges spread across the land and their people were reduced to a single individual, it was still her only goal to cure the world of its horrendous afflictions. In the endless march of time though, the situation would grow more and more dire until it seemed utterly hopeless. The lone Dryad of her time would despair at the state of all things and come to walk a line that few of her kind had ever come back from. It was a path of pure desperation, of becoming something terrible, something hideously beautiful, all in the service of a greater good. Gods had begun. Humanity had all players deep and challenging, different is less likely to get me horribly In the course of Terraria's long history, there have been many beings that are commonly referred to as Dryads. There have been some who are placid, existing in harmony with nature and merely keeping the dark powers at bay, but then there have been others who are more vengeful, weaponizing nature and creating vicious abominations to wage war against the powers of corruption and cataclysm. Indeed, at one time, there were an entire race of nymphs who watched over and guided the natural world, with the High Dryad as their leader, but those days are long gone, swept away with the rest of the Dryad's people by the curse of corruption and cosmic nightmares. For a time, the remnants of the Dryads fought against the new enemy, but were slowly killed or corrupted themselves until only one remained, one who embodied the full power of her race. This lone survivor would go on battling the forces of night, dying again and again, only for her essence to be reborn into one of her corrupted kin. But the effort was ultimately futile, and a great despair grew within her heart, a fear that nothing she could ever do would be enough to drive back the endless hordes of terrible beasts, and return the world she had once known. In an effort to uncover new tactics to defeat her foes once and for all, the Dryad of this dark time would spend millennia traversing Terraria with the corruption forever in pursuit. As her options dwindled and the foul tendrils of doom grew ever closer, the anguish finally overcame her, and she came to the realization that she would have to entertain any option that was available to her, even if that meant giving up everything that being a Dryad had ever meant. To fight a darkness this insidious with the mere aim of maintaining balance was not enough. She would need to turn herself over to the great light that burned within the hearts of all beings, the one that compelled crimes of passion, gluttony, and lust. Alone it was no better than the darkness that drove greed and rage, but when wielded against the corruption, it might just be enough to restore balance. Her intentions were sound, her plans solid, but as all things seemed to be, the situation was not to be that simple, and another scourge of equal fervor would ultimately be unleashed upon the world. Undissuaded though in her devotion, and with a modicum of hope returning to her tortured soul, the lone Dryad set off to the one place she knew she could commune with the forces of light and night. A great shrine once used by a race to assess the state of the world and maintain the balance. A balance she was about to willingly shatter. The shrine, though, was in the centre of what used to be the nymph's capital, a place now completely overrun by the corruption. It was a place her predecessors had vowed never to return to, yet it was the only hope she believed remained to her, and so, gathering all the courage she had left, she set off into a land that held only death, decay, and the glimmer of salvation. The Dryad's journey was long and arduous, with each day bringing new dangers and an ever-waning resolve. She did not sleep in this place, and even if she had been able to, then it would have undoubtedly resulted in her swift demise. Even death would not be a reprieve though, for where in past lives she had on occasion allowed herself to succumb to a threat when there was no other option, knowing that she would be reborn into a new body, the corruption offered no such escape. If she died while here, then she would become as her still living brethren, twisted and foul, and the line of true Dryads would be wiped out forever. Unwilling to allow that to happen, she pushed on through the thorns and the swamps, and the vile soul-eaters that snatched at her very being, until she finally came upon the ruins of her once mighty civilization. Where once mighty arch trees stood, nymph society teeming from their canopies to their roots, there was now only rotten wood, scars of past battles lost, and terrible memories. But there was still life here, for not all of the nymphs had fled their ancestral land, and they now cautiously watched the return of their once queen. Knowing that their hesitation would not last, the Dryad pressed on towards the shrine. In its heyday it had been a mighty circle of stones, carved with mystical emblems, but now it stood decayed, covered in the vulgar slime and tendrils so prevalent across the corruption. Despite its appearance, its power still remained, and it called to the Dryad. With the nymphs creeping closer, the Dryad took up position in the center of the stones, and opened herself to the powers of the world. She felt how far the darkness had spread, how it was choking the purity, and threatening to overwhelm everything that still remained pure. But underneath it all, she felt the light, a burning intensity like 1,000 suns held just out of reach. The radiance seemed to sense her intentions, and offered itself to the Dryad for the sake of her greater good. All she had to do was accept it. This is what she had come all this way for, and with her rabid full insistence almost upon her, to refuse it now would mean the end of it all. Taking that final step that no other Dryad ever had, she allowed the light to stream into her, twisting her form and mind, making her a vessel of radiance incarnate. Immediately the shrine exploded with the light of the stars themselves, a prismatic shockwave washing across the ruins, transforming the vile, corrupt land into a shining vista that shimmered like pearls. The nymphs fled from the chaos, so overcome with the light that they would retreat underground to escape it. In the center of the shrine a new being rose, where the Dryad had once stood, fantastical membranous wings unfolding to blot out the sky, and a crown upon her head embedded with the purest of all prisms. The Empress of Light had awoken, and there was nothing on Terraria that could stop her now. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked what you saw, then please consider liking the video, subscribing and sharing it with your friends. If you want to support the channel even more, then head over to Patreon, become a channel member or buy some merch. Links are all down in the description. I hope you all have a great day and I'll see you next time.